guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, hey, hello, I am Fabulous Bree. And if you've been here before, hey girl, how you doing? Welcome back. Today we are doing something new on the channel. I feel like this is something that I will like really enjoy doing because this is something that I actually do all the time. So why not bring it to the channel, you know? So Fridays we will be doing movies and makeovers, okay? So this segment is basically like me just sitting around talking about different movies that I've watched, or you guys can suggest me movies to watch and we can come together and talk, you know, talk about it or whatever, give opinions on it, whatever the case may be, because literally that's pretty much all I do. Like, I love watching TV. Like, that's just me. I love watching movies. I love watching series, binge watching. Like, I am that type of girl. So why not add that and incorporate that, whatever, however you want to put it, to my channel while I'm doing my makeup or while I'm doing my hair, or we could just simply be sitting here talking about it. But movies and makeovers will definitely consist of me just making myself over, because right now, as you see, I am like literally crusty, okay? Anyways, so in today's makeup movies and makeovers video, we are going to be talking about Fear Street. Oh my god, I am like obsessed with this little movie series that they got going on Netflix. If you have not been watching the Fear Street series, I'm sorry, this will be a spoiler. So if you do not want me to spoil the movie, then you probably shouldn't watch it. But if you're someone like me, I don't care if you spoil it or not. I like to tap in to see what you think about it, and then, you know, how you talk about the movie, and then I'll be like, hey, let me go watch it. Even if you say it's a weird or bad movie, I'm still like, hey, I'm gonna watch it just to see how I feel about it. So I'm definitely that type of person. I don't care if you talk about it or not. I'm intrigued. So if you're like that, then definitely continue watching. But yeah, we're gonna do some makeup. You know, your girl's gonna do some eyeshadow today. I haven't did eyeshadow in I don't know how long. So you already know my eyeshadow palettes are really old. I haven't bought or received a new eyeshadow palette in so long because I kind of stopped the PR packages that way, because I just was like, I don't even wear this much makeup. Why am I getting all of this makeup? But now, since I'm going to get back into incorporating makeup looks and different things of that nature, I wouldn't be opposed to receiving new eyeshadow palettes so we can test them out while we talk about movies. So anyways, yes, you guys, let's go ahead and get into the video. All right, so Fear Street on Netflix, it starts with part 1, which is based in 1994, and it's pretty much talking about a city that's pretty much has been cursed in a way. So you have two cities that's pretty much like rivalries. You have Sunnyvale, and then you have, damn, my mind just went blank. Shadyside, that's what it is. You have Sunnyvale and then you have Shadyside. And Shadyside is the town that's pretty much cursed. So in part 1, 1994, it starts off with one of the Shadysiders. They're at work, and they work at the mall. You know, she's working in like I think it's a bookstore. No, it looks like a movie store. It's either a bookstore or a movie store. And she's pretty much checking out a guest. It's the last guest of the night, and she's just trying to hurry up and close. She wants to get home, all of that good stuff. So she normally closes with one of her friends that she met at the job, but he works in a completely different store. It's kind of like those stores, if you remember, they probably still got it. I think they do still got the store open. But if you heard of Spencer's or like Hot Topic, it was kind of like one of them stores. And then like in the back, you'll have like the little sex toys and stuff. We had no business being in the back, but we used to be back there playing around with this stuff. And they used to let us in the store and like let us go back there, which I think is weird. But anyways, it was kind of like one of those stores that he worked from. But he's gonna be the reason, you know, everything just started going downhill. But unbeknownst, Shadyside is actually cursed. So like every couple of years, not couple of years, I would say like 16 to 20 years or 30 years, someone ends up getting cursed and just going around and just killing everybody. It's like a full-blown massacre until somebody kills them in a way, but they never die, so keep that in mind. So she's on the phone with him. He was like, when did you know, start closing late, da 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 da? And she was like, since my mom, you know, her family is kind of like struggling a little bit, so she just kind of started taking late hours. I know my brow's looking crazy, don't mind that, we're gonna fix that. But she started taking late hours to kind of help at home. So she was like, oh, I'm glad you're still here. You know, you can help me, you know, not help me. You can walk home with me because I don't want to walk alone. So I'm assuming she didn't really stay that far, the mall or whatever. So she got off the phone with him and he kind of showed up out of nowhere. She kind of heard something fall and stuff like that. So she walked, she was trying to close the gate, but it didn't close. So she left it cracked, which is a good thing because what's about to happen, y'all, is crazy. So she left the gate to close the store cracked because it wouldn't shut all the way. So when she did that, she started hearing like weird noises and stuff like that. But it was really her friend that was trying to like scare her or whatever, like sneak up on her. Kind of scares her with this blow up doll. But like in the beginning, I've watched this twice already and I noticed a couple of things that I didn't notice the first time. So whenever Sarah Fear, that is the girl that pretty much possessed the town, she was known as a witch or whatever. You know how way back in the day, like the pilgrimage age, stuff like that, they believed in witches, like witchcraft and all that stuff. So they considered this person named Sarah Fear as a witch. Part 3 actually comes out today, which I am super excited, but I have to wait because me and my friends kind of started like this little club or whatever. So we're gonna watch it together with our FaceTime movie date because we all live in different states. But the third one comes out today, so that's gonna kind of go over, you know, the history on how all of this stuff even happened, like why is Shady Side cursed like this. But anyways, I noticed in the beginning, like when he was talking to her and then he turned around to walk off, he was like, yeah, I'll walk with you or whatever, just let me finish closing up my store. So he ended up walking back, but as soon as he turned his back, a freaking fly was like flying around him. It like landed on him or whatever. I don't know if like other people would notice the fly like kind of flying around the people that's cursed, but I kind of noticed that now. So he walked off to go to his store and she kind of goes back in to finish closing up herself. So as she's, you know, walking around kind of straightening up a little bit, something falls in the background. So she's kind of like, what the heck? Because she's thinking of her friend that already scared her. So she's thinking like, okay, you're trying to scare me again. Okay, it's working. You don't have to do all of that, blah, blah, blah. But unbeknownst to her, it is her friend, but he's, you know, fully possessed now. So he's in there. He kind of dresses up as like it seems like every person that was possessed by Sarah Fear was always dressed up or something was wrong with them. So with him, he was dressed up as a skull, like a kind of like the Scream character with the white long mask and then the black cape, but he had on a skull mask with a black cape, which was kind of crazy. At first she didn't know that was him at all. She just thought it was somebody that was, no, at first she thought it was him like trying to prank her, but then when he came around, he literally popped out of nowhere and tried to stab her. But luckily she was holding a book because the book had fell, or was it a movie? I'm not sure. Whatever, the book or movie had fell on the floor, so she picked it up, and when she turned around, he was standing behind her fully dressed in the skull and cape and with a knife, and he was trying to stab her. But luckily, the way she was holding the book, the knife ended up hitting the book and not her. So man, so she started screaming and, you know, trying to fight him off and everything. Luckily, because she couldn't close the gate all the way, she was able to escape. So she ended up crawling from out of the store under the gate, and she ended up running to the store where her friend was. I think his name was Run. It's starting to come back to me as I'm talking about it. So I think Run was you know, well, she was thinking Run was in the store, but he wasn't. So she was walking around like screaming his name like, hey, help me. But she ended up like finding the phone, so she fell to the floor to call 911. She ended up calling 911, but she was kind of peeking over the countertop inside the store where Run worked at. She noticed that he was running around like trying to find her. So she kind of ducked down again and dropped the phone. So she stopped talking to the police because she's like, oh shoot, like what the heck? Like what am I supposed to do? So she dropped to the ground and kind of stood there for like sat there for a second, like quiet. But I think when she peeked her head again over the counter, he saw her shoot in the middle of the ground and looked at the store and was like, oh, I see you. So he started running towards the store and she started running. So she ran to the back of the store trying to like get through the door. But yeah, the door was locked, completely locked. She couldn't run. She couldn't like get out to go to the emergency exit. So she's turned around but he wasn't in there. So she was like, okay, maybe he didn't come in here, which is dumb. I think he was in there, you know, just kind of hiding. So she's walking walking around like real slowly, just trying to like scope the scene to make sure, you know, okay, let me not run into him. So she's creeping around the store, you know, just trying to really keep a low profile, like to be as quiet as possible. She ended up, you know, running out of her shoes, so she's not really making noise there. But, you know, he's already in the store, obviously. So she's walking around. She ended up running into a skull, but it was a mannequin. It wasn't the real person. But he was in the lineup, which was crazy. So she was walking, and then she, you know, got scared, but then she was like, okay. So she started, you know, scooting really fast to get out of the store. But he ended up coming out of the lineup of the skeletons and like, you know, I think he pushed her or whatever. And she ended up falling. He grabbed her and she was trying to run, and that's when he ended up slicing her stomach. And I'm just like, oh shoot, she about to die. But she ended up breaking away from that. So she started running again, like running out of the store. But oh my God, the dude was like running super fast, like freaking track star, okay? Literally a track star after her. And he ended up grabbing her and pulling her down to the ground. And she, you know, was screaming like, oh my God. And he just started wailing, like just stabbing her like crazy, like, yo, it's crazy. So he just going in, and then she managed to, you know, she was fighting and she managed to grab his mask. And when she pulled the mask down, she saw her friend and was like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? Like, it's me, like, why are you doing this? Don't do this. But she didn't know that he was possessed, but you could see it on his face, like he didn't look like himself. Like he was truly possessed by Sarah Fear. So, but luckily, well, it's not even luckily, because she ended up dying as well. Not to laugh at that. Why am I laughing at that? That's kind of bad. But while he was stabbing her, like going crazy with it, the police, I guess, you know, the woman that she was on the phone with, they went ahead and just sent dispatch over. One of the police officers shot him in the head, point blank. So he ended up dying, but he doesn't actually die. That's the thing. That ended up happening. That's how the movie started off. Let me just say that. It started off crazy. Like, what the heck? So now it's going all the way to school. I mean, it was still based in the 90s, but then it switched to 1994. I'm guessing that happened. No, it happened in the same year, because they said, oh, did you hear what happened last night? And they had like her pictures and stuff on her locker, you know, memorializing her. So now the character starts to switch. Like, it switched to a new set of characters, which is a girl. It's going to be like 2 girls. No, actually 3 girls and 2 guys. Those are like the main characters. I'm going to put their names up with their picture, because I cannot think of their name for some reason. I do remember Sam, because Sam, I just wanted her gone this whole time. So it's based in school, you know, it's kind of like a teenage, that's pretty much how R.L. Stine books are for Fear Street. It's based off teenagers. It does have like some adults, you know, but it's really based off teenagers and stuff like that. So it's like a rival thing going on with Sunnyvale and Shadyside, and it's a football game. Basically, in this scene, I'm just gonna skip to the part where they end up going to a football field, because it was a rival game with Sunnyvale and Shadyside. They was holding a memorial for the girl that ended up passing away at the mall. They wanted to kind of do like a candlelight vigil for her. Sunnyvale is pretty much like the upper class side. You know, everybody is made in the shade over there, like nothing's wrong with them. So they think they're better than Shadyside. So as they are having the candlelight vigil, Sam, one of the girls from Shadyside, and Sam ended up going behind like the school or whatever, because she wanted to give her a box of stuff that she had from her. It was kind of like a little love fling, lesbian love fling, let me just say that. But Sam was actually, she was trying to hide it at the time. Like, she didn't want people to know that, you know, that was her thing. Like, she was into girls. So she ended up moving away, like moving in with her mom. Like, her parents ended up getting a divorce. So she ended up moving with her mom instead to Sunnyvale. So they're behind school just arguing. She's just like, you shouldn't have left. Da, da, da. You chose to leave. You think you're better. And now you're pretending you living a lie and stuff like that. But Sam, she's kind of like, I'm not living a lie. I didn't have a choice. So as they're arguing, I can't talk sometimes. So as that's going on, a freaking brawl ended up happening between Sunnyvale and Shadyside, because while the candlelight vigil was going on, somebody from Sunnyvale, which was Sam's boyfriend, ended up blurting out like, we should just get rid of Shadyside. You know, nothing but low lives, you know, just going in, you know. One of the Shadysiders was like, excuse me, like, what you talking about? You know, talking mess. So they ended up fighting, and then this big brawl just ended up happening. So the next scene is them on the bus. They're heading back to Shady Side because the game ended up getting canceled. Like, but the whole time I'm watching this and all of this going on, you don't notice anybody in the bleachers. Like, nobody was in the bleachers, which was weird. And then as the storyline progressed, you kind of notice that none of the parents are around. Like, it's kind of weird. But anywho, it's a movie. So as they're on the bus, you know, they're kind of chanting like, we're gonna kill them, the Shady Siders. They're on the bus heading back to Shady Side, and they're like, we're gonna get them. Who do they think they are? All of that good stuff. So they're chanting and going crazy like, yeah, we're gonna kill them, you know, talking about the next game whenever that happens. A hunk, like people from Sunnyvale was driving behind them, and they had on freaking skull masks because of the massacre that happened at the mall. So they're kind of taunting them with the skull mask, honking the horn like dun 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 dun. And lo and behold, Sam, the girl's girlfriend, used to be girlfriend, is sitting on the passenger side. So we know who the two skull people are. Is Sam's boyfriend and one of Sam's boyfriend's friend. Sam is kind of like hitting him and like, hey, stop this not a good idea. But whatchamacallit ended up seeing it, peeping the scene. So she's like, oh my God, you guys come look at this. So they're kind of like taunting back. So homegirl nose ended up bleeding, which is a thing. Like whenever someone is about to get possessed or they're gonna die or whatever the case may be from the curse of Sarah Fear, their nose ends up bleeding, which is kind of weird. So her nose is bleeding, and I think in actuality, because they were in the area of where Sarah Fear was buried, I think the girl that was on the bus was supposed to be possessed by Sarah Fear. Because of what went down, Sam was the one that actually ended up getting possessed. So as that's going on, she's grabbing like a Gatorade can, and she's telling her friend, her cheerleader friend, to open the door, just open the door. So of course that's not going to be a good idea either way. So I think whatchamacallit was originally about to get possessed by Sarah Fear, so she kind of blanked out for a second and her nose started bleeding. So her cheerleader friend ended up hitting her like, yo, your nose or whatever, and she like, huh? And like the Gatorade can ended up falling out of her hand. Like, what? So the Gatorade can ended up falling out of her hand, hitting the car, and they ended up flying off the road, veering off the road into the woods. And which is crazy, they ended up hitting a tree that was actually the tree where Sarah Fear's body, her remains were buried, which is so crazy. So she ended up falling, you know, they ended up veering off the road. Boom. Okay. So now the girl, Sam, is crawling out of the car. She's crawling on the ground and like, she's just like, what the heck is going on? Her nose is starting to bleed, like bleed really bad. And she wiped her nose because she felt her nose bleeding, and she ended up putting her hand in the ground, which ended up touching a pair of bones that was right there. So it was, I don't know, it's just so crazy, y'all. Like, so it ended up touching the bones, and she ended up seeing Sarah Fear herself, the witch, the curse. So Sam's girlfriend ended up like grabbing her. The vision actually stopped. I should have my brushes out next time because what the heck? She's like, what are you doing here? So from there, they're like, we need to get her to the hospital. But she's like, I'm fine. And her friend, her guy friend, ended up saying, I can help her. You know, I can do this, whatever. So he ended up asking her like, how many fingers am I holding up? And she ended up spitting up blood everywhere. So some fell on her girlfriend's shoe and some flew on the guy's shirt. So he's like, oh my God, like what the heck? So we ended up cutting to the next scene. She's at home trying to get in contact with Sam, trying to see if she's okay. Is everything okay? But you know, Sam's mom ended up answering the phone like, don't call her no more. You're the reason all this happened. So yeah. Now, I'm assuming, this is what I'm assuming. I'm assuming that this is the weekend, because how you go from being at school and then not being I don't know. It's just the storyline is there, but the way things is set up, it just kind of has me like, what the heck, when I sit and really think about it. So it ended up, and I'm thinking all of this happened in one night, which is so crazy. Like all of this really happened in one night. So she ended up, you know, trying to get in contact with her. Like, I gotta figure this out one way or another. But it was nighttime, you know? So she was looking out the window. No, somebody ended up banging on the door. But when she opened the door, nobody was there. But when she looked across the field, she saw the guy from the massacre at the mall. It was a skull mask and a cape. But she was thinking it was the girl's boyfriend that was like taunting them. because before all of that went down, like with the accident and everything, that's what he had on a skull mask and everything, like taunting him. So she thought it was him. So she started yelling, saying, "Oh, you a piece of shit. Go go bother somebody else," all of that crazy stuff. So she ended up closing the door. Now her brother came up and was like, "Oh, is the food here?" I guess he was trying to order some pizza, but the pizza never came. So he ended up looking out the window because the guy was at the window. So they're like, "Whoa, what the heck?" Like looking, she was like, "That's nothing but Sam's boyfriend. He's like, taunting us or whatever." So he ended up disappearing, and it cuts to the next scene with the cheerleader friend and the guy at her house. She was babysitting, and the same thing started happening to her. So it was more so like he ended up breaking into the house, which is crazy. When he broke in the house, he was like going through the girl laundry looking for the blood of Sam, basically. So how all of this adds up is that Sam's blood was on the guy's shirt and Sam's blood was on the girl's shoe. So that's why he ended up going to both of their houses. And to put two and two together, he was basically looking for Sam. So he was in the house looking for the shirt, and he ended up finding the shirt, and they saw him standing in the living room like, "Hey," and he turned around and looked, but took off running and left the shirt. So the guy friend ended up picking up the shirt like, "What the heck?" Because he was like sniffing the shirt in the way. It was like weird. So the guy ended up running away, and she ended up calling her friend and was like, "Hey, the same thing just happened to me. We need to go and investigate." Why do you want to investigate? So they ended up going, doing what they do. The girl that was babysitting the two twins, she ended up giving it to the next door neighbor, like, "Hey, can you watch them? It's just some things that's going on. I have to kind of take care of this." So the woman was like, "Yeah, it's fine." But then she saw her friend's shirt. It had like blood all over it. So she was like, "Are you sure everything is okay?" And she was like, "Yes, ma'am, it's fine. It's just, we got to handle some things." So they ended up going over to her friend's house, and they were like, "It's Sam's boyfriend. He's taunting us," all of that good stuff. So they're kind of like, "What do you mean? How do you know if it's him?" And, she just kind of was like putting two and two together with them and letting them know like, "Hey, this is him. It was obviously him. He has a thing out for us. He had on the skull when he was driving the car behind the bus, all of that stuff." So they set on a venture to go and find Sam. So they ended up showing up at the hospital, and the person in the front desk just did not let them in. They were like, "Oh, visiting hours are over. You can fill out these paperwork and sit here," because at first she thought they was there for an emergency, but they was like, "No, we're here to see a patient." The cheerleader friend was like, "Hey, let me see Nurse Betty." So Nurse Betty is kind of like a character where he wants to go by she. So her name was originally Eddie, but on the name tag it has like a B, which I think is really funny. So Nurse Betty is the person known to like give drugs to certain people so they can like sell it or whatever the case may be. So Nurse Betty comes out like, "Oh, I can't, help right now." They're kind of like cracking down, but they're like, "No, we're here to see a patient." So Nurse Betty ended up walking old girl to the back to see Sam, and she just busts through there like wailing like, "I know it's your boyfriend. You need to control him. He's trying to scare us, da 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 da." And Sam just sitting on the bed like, "What are you talking about? Like, my boyfriend's been here with me all day. Like, what are you talking about?" And she's just kind of like, "No, he showed up at my house, and he even showed up at the cheerleader friend's house with a knife, and she had kids there," and just like going off. So it kind of pans from that scene to the other kids. They're like trying to get like snacks and stuff while they wait on their friend. So as they're arguing, Sam's boyfriend appears out of nowhere like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like he was trying to see what was going on, and he looked at her and was like, "Oh, it's you, da 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 da." And she was like, "Oh, way to make an appearance, way to make it your return." And he's just looking at her like, "What are you talking about? Like, you sound crazy right now." That's basically what he was looking like. I know that wasn't the word said in the scene, but I'm gonna just kind of give my flavor of how it went down. But he's just looking at her like, "What are you talking about? Like, I've been here all day. Like, what are you talking about?" So as they're arguing, the girls are kind of going back and forth. But as the girls are kind of like going back and forth, like arguing, Sam's boyfriend ended up getting stabbed from behind. And lo and behold, it's from the mall massacre guy that had the skull mask and the cape on. So you would think he was dead, right? Yeah, no, he's not dead. But at first they thought it was somebody else that was just trying to mimic the massacre. They didn't know it was the dead guy, Ron. So they looking like, what the fuck? what just happened. They started screaming and running, and the guy come from behind the curtain and started chasing Sam. And Sam's girlfriend ended up jumping on the guy, like on his back and stuff, like trying to stop him from stabbing her. And they ended up getting away, and they started running down the hallway. And they're just yelling at their friends like, run, run. But they looking like, what is going on? So they ended up looking behind them, and the skull mask killer is running after them. So they're like standing there like kind of paralyzed, you know, and they're screaming like, whoa, oh my God. And the skull mascot actually ended up running past them, you know. With that, the reason why is because he's solely after Sam. Like, he wants Sam's blood because she disturbed Sarah Fierce's, you know, grave or whatever. So they ended up hiding behind a desk. They see Nurse Betty come out. Like, Nurse Betty sees them hiding behind a desk, and he's like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong with y'all? And he looks up and sees the skull mask killer, and he's like, oh, you can't be here. Why do you have this mask on? And, you know, skull mask killer ended up going in on him, ended up killing him. So then the girl started screaming, and he ended up seeing them behind the desk. So Sam actually ended up trying to jump over the counter, but he ended up grabbing her. But luckily Sam's girlfriend was right there, so she ended up jumping on his back again, and Sam bit him on the arm. Like, they're like tussling with him, and the knife ended up flying out of his hand, so he didn't really have anything to kill them with. So the friends pulled up in a ambulance. They ended up stealing the ambulance from the hospital. They pull up, tell them to run to get inside, and they actually end up doing that. Oh, but before they got on the ambulance truck, Sam ended up pulling off the mask of the guy. Or no, when the guy fell down, his mask kind of slipped off his head, and as she was running towards the ambulance truck, she like looked back again and saw his face and saw that it was the mall massacre guy that ended up getting killed. So she's looking like, what? Like, oh my God. So they ended up getting on the ambulance truck, and they're just in there like, oh my God, da, 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 you know, just screaming about what's happened, because they don't know what to do. They're like, what the heck? It's the guy or whatever. So they ended up going to the police station. So when they get there, they're in there just yelling at the guy like, oh my God, it's him. And, you know, the police officers don't believe them because they're like, he's dead. Like, how is it him when we killed him at the scene, you know? So yeah, but they're like, no, it's him. You gotta believe us. He's going around, he's trying to kill us, you know, or whatever. So they're like, okay, just shoving it off like, okay, we'll look into it. They ended up getting a call about something went down at the hospital, like they was trying to explain to them. So one of the police officers ended up leaving to go check it out, and they ended up staying behind with the other police officer, just like really trying to explain to him that, hey, somebody is trying to kill us. Can you please help us? So he's shoving it off and like, oh, you know, it's okay, kids. We have a lot of people prank calling, all of that stuff. And they're like, this is not a prank, like this is real. So Sam's girlfriend ended up jumping on the police officer like, you're supposed to help us, da da da. And he like, hey, you better stop, da da da. You guys need to leave. Why don't you go find your boyfriends and leave or whatever? But the reason why she did that was to steal the police officer's gun. But while that's going on, it pans to the other scene where Sam's friend, the guy, he's like, oh, I need to go use the bathroom. I can't hold it. So he went to go walk off to find somewhere to pee. Why he would walk off by himself, I don't know. Don't ask me. But that whole time, I'm just thinking like, why would he do that? Like, don't you know it's a freaking killer on the loose that's trying to get y'all, and you want to go off by yourself to go use the bathroom? I would have peed right there in front of them if that was me. But so he ended up walking off, and while he's doing that, he ended up spotting a girl like sitting on the curb, and he still has on the bloody t-shirt, which is so crazy to me. He still had on the bloody t-shirt where Sam had kind of spit up on. The girl that was sitting on the curb, you know, she was just sitting there singing. So it kind of caught his attention. He went up to her and was like, are you okay? Do you need help? And he like touched her shoulder. And when she looked up at him, you know, she had like slashes on her face, and he ended up like stumbling back like, oh wow, like, oh. So when that happened, they ended up coming out the police station, and they're talking, and end up showing the gun like, oh, you know, we're gonna be protected. And they're like, how the heck did you get that? How did you do that? And Sam was like, you stole the gun? Why would you do that? We're gonna get in trouble, da da da. And she was like, man, we need this, basically. Like, y'all shut up, we need this gun. So she's like, wait, where's, you know, my friend? So the scene pans back to him, and he's like tussling with the girl because she ended up pulling out the knife, and he ended up trying to take off running, but before he can take off running, she ended up slashing the back of his ankle. And I'm just like, oh my God. So he ended up falling and she get on top of him and she's trying to stab him, you know, get him or whatever. And this is another one of Sarah Fierce's lost soul. I'm gonna put it as Sarah Fierce's lost souls from like when she possessed them. So every person that Sarah Fier possesses, you know, they end up coming back whenever it's like a certain mission for them to go and like kill somebody that ended up disturbing the grave or that ended up being possessed by her. She sends out her people to go and kill. So this is person number 2. Her name was Lynn, and she actually died in 1965. So but they didn't know about that until her brother started to explain everything, because he was into that stuff, like what we call it now conspiracy theories. Like he was into that, like looking up stuff, putting 2 and 2 together, like this doesn't make sense, da 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 da. So you know, he ended up getting the girl off of him by no, I'm going too fast. Hold on, I'm jumping too fast. So while he's scuffling and stuff, she ended up slicing his neck, all of that stuff. But know that he still has the shirt on with the blood. So that's why she's really attacking him, because I'm guessing the spirit was thinking that he was Sam because he had Sam's blood on him. So she's trying to kill him, going in on him. They ended up shooting the girl and she was bleeding out black blood. Now it cuts to them at the house. No, they're in the van going back to the house and they're like, we don't understand, why is these people trying to kill us? And her brother was like, wait, who was trying to kill you? He was like, was she singing a song? Was she singing a song? And he was like, yeah, it was creepy. And he was like, that's whatchamacallit, but she died in 1965. And they're like, what? Like, why is this happening to us? Like, what the heck? So they thought that the witch's curse on the town was like a hoax, you know, a tale that was told for many years. They thought it was just a lie. But when her brother ended up like just really explaining everything and just showing them like, this isn't a lie, like this is what's happening for real. Like they're trying to kill us to get to Sam. Like, so they was talking some more. They ended up coming up with a plan, and the plan was to lure everybody to the school that's after them, you know, the 2 killers. Actually, no, the first plan that they came up with was to go back to where Sam was, where she, I guess, kind of interacted with Sarah Fier. So they ended up going back to the crash site where they were, and the car, like everything was still right there. So they ended up going back there to kind of like reverse the curse. They thought that this was going to be the way to reverse the curse, so they won't have anyone going after them again to like kill them. They were just, you know, they found the bones and everything, and then they ended up like not burying it, like putting it inside of a jacket and trying to bury it. So they ended up burying it again, and then her friend like kind of tapped on it like, we're sorry, please forgive us, like just stop trying to kill us. Which was so funny to me. So they were doing that, but they was hearing like weird noises in the woods. So they was like trying to figure out where the noise was coming from. So when they saw that, they was like, what is that? So the guy's sister was like, hey, is everything okay? Did everything stop? And he was like, I don't know. So he's like looking around, and the scene gets really quiet, and then out of nowhere the camp night owl killer just come running out of the woods. But he runs past the girl's brother and heads straight to Sam, which she kind of stood up, but she was in a daze. So Sam's girlfriend ended up grabbing her like, come on, and he was about to hit her. He did kind of slash her back a little bit, but ended up running into the car. Like, y'all, the scene is about to get crazy. It starts to get really, really crazy after that. So now that that's happening, they're all screaming and running for their lives. They come up with another plan, and the plan was them actually going to the school. That's the next scene. They ended up going to the school, and you know, while he's sitting there explaining like how we can do it, it's showing the scene of them setting it up at the school. So they ended up cutting Sam's hand so she can drip blood into like this mop bowl, and they were gonna mop like different sections of the school to lure in the different killers that's trying to kill them over Sam. So the plan actually works. They ended up luring the killers inside of the bathroom, and they got all 3 of them in there, and they ended up doing like this explosion experiment basically. So they thought that they had them, you know, like, oh, we got them, da 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 da. But for some reason they keep coming back. Like they all just keep coming back even after exploding. So they're like, what the heck, we don't know what to do. They end up running to like this classroom. I know I look so crazy right now. Like it's an art classroom, and then luckily it had a phone in there. The brother ended up having all of the files and everything, like news clippings and everything of like all the murders and stuff that's been going on Shady Side, and everybody's in there yelling like, we need to just give her up. They only want Sam. Why do we keep trying to save her? I'm not trying to die over her, you know, like they just going in like, I'm not about to do this. Especially the cheerleader friend, she like, I'm not about to do this. We need to just give them who they want, which is Sam, so let's give them what they want. And Sam's girlfriend is like, no, I'm not about to do that. Like, this is my girlfriend. Like, I'm trying to keep her alive. I'm trying to keep everybody alive. Like, let's just figure out another plan. And they're like, it's not a plan. It's nothing that we can do. Nothing is going to work. So they're arguing, and Sam ended up breaking up the argument, saying, it's okay. You're right. I'm gonna, you know, put myself in the hallway and become bait or whatever. So she's like, it's okay. You know, this is what they want me. Let me go ahead and sacrifice myself so I can end this, which wasn't going to end everything, but you know, it was just going to end that night, basically, the people trying to kill them. So they ended up shoving her in the hallway, and Sam's girlfriend is going crazy like, are you serious? And the person with the axe ended up, you know, reforming. He comes out of the bathroom and he sees her standing all the way. It's like a long hallway, and he sees her standing in the hallway, and she's just standing there like, okay, I'm about to die tonight. You know, she's accepting her fate basically. So they in there, the scene starts slowing down. It really starts to focus on the little brother, and she's like, help me, like figure like it has to be something. Like she's screaming and everything. And in my mind, I'm like, yes, kill her. She needs to die. Like, I don't care. I'm just like, dude, what the heck? Like, she needs to die. Everybody is dying for no reason. Like, why does everybody else have to die? You know? Sarah, the witch or whatever that's possessing everything to happen, only wants Sam, you know? So that was my whole thing. Like, why the heck? Like, I really do not care. I know it's like a teen love movie inside of this, but it's just like, girl, come on now. Be mindful of other people's lives. Like, I know you love her and you want everything to be all perfect and blah, 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 but no. But so while that's going down, the scene starts to slow down, and it starts to pan in on the brother, and he kind of gets an idea from remembering reading something. Like, he was kind of going through the papers and stuff that was kind of mentioning all of the things that was happening. He saw an article where it says C. Berman. That's one of the survivors from the night owl or the night crawl camp massacre. So he was like, this is the answer, she survived or whatever, da, 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 da. So they're like, oh my god. So they ended up pulling Sam back into the room before it got down to the last minute before he came up and hit her. So they yanked her back in the room, and they were just like, we got the answer, we got the answer. And they were like, okay, so we need to call this woman. So they ended up trying to get in touch with her, but she wasn't answering the phone. And then Sam was looking at the news clip, and it was like, it said that she died. So they're like, what? So as they're like, all of that is going down, the freaking axe slinging slasher man was beating down the wall, like just with the axe, just boom, boom. Like, he was trying to get to her tough. He like, I need to kill Sam. Like, he was trying to get into their room, which he did eventually, but they ended up climbing out of the window to start their search for C. Berman. Like, they're like, we're gonna find her. But in actuality, I think they thought that she was dead, but they went back and read it again and was like, she has to die in order for everything to stop, but we'll have to bring her back to life, because that's what it said in the news clipping, that the C. Berman person, she ended up dying, but a local team, which is, you know, another guy, ended up bringing her to life, like performing CPR on her and stuff and bringing her back to life. So boom, she came back, but her sister, you know, unfortunately ended up dying from the incident. So with that being said, they set to a hunt to kill Sam themselves and to also bring her back. So from watching the movie, when you do watch the movie, you will find out that the cheerleader friend and the guy friend were actually drug dealers. So they were in a situation where one of their friends that they were hanging with when they was taking the drugs ended up having an overdose, but they ended up bringing him back to life by using the EpiPen. So the guy friend, he worked at the grocery store, so he kind of knew where everything was, and he went back to the pharmacy and found like a gang of EpiPens, and they was kind of running down the line of like, hey, this is what you need to do in order to die, but we know how to bring you back because we've been in this situation before, basically. So I'm just like, so Sam just kind of sitting there like, this is crazy, but okay, you know, let's do it because I want this to end. But does it actually end? That's the real question that need answers. But as that was going down, you know, they kind of set off and went their separate ways. Y'all, stuff started to go crazy, go down in this grocery store, and this was like kind of making me sad because I'm like, damn, I just knew, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just had a feeling. I just knew that it was gonna play out a certain way, but it didn't. So while Sam is with her girlfriend, and they're trying to like figure out how to go through with the pill popping part to kill her, the cheerleader friend, her brother, and the guy friend, they are all running around the grocery store trying to figure out where each of the people that's trying to kill them are going to come in. It's like 2 different emergency exits, and then it's like the front entryway. So with the front entryway, the cheerleader friend was actually going to, you know, keep that. So keep that on the lookout. You know, the skull killer ended up coming through the front, and he was about to come and stab Sam while they were taking the pills, but the cheerleader friend actually ended up coming out of nowhere with like some kind of fire type of situation and burned him. So it kind of stopped him from doing that. So now each of the friends actually has a little bit of blood too as well, of Sam's blood on them, so that they can distract the killers from going towards her, so she can, you know, finish out the plan of ODing basically. That ended up going down, but as it started getting towards the end, they ended up, because when the cheerleader friend actually burned the mall massacre one, the skull killer one, Sam accidentally, like, they was trying to move out the way, she ended up hitting the bowl of pills, so now that's out of whack. So now they got to figure out another way to kill her. So they're running around the store like, oh my god. They ended up finding a shrimp. You know how the lobsters, how they used to have that live display of lobsters in the water, like at Red Lobster and at the grocery stores and stuff. I remember that as a kid. And they proceed with the plan of drowning her. So so they do it that way, and yeah, it's taking her forever to die. And at this point, the friend, the cheerleader friend, and the brother, they're all running around trying to run from everybody. At this point, all of the killers done got into the grocery store trying to get to her, but they're going to each other person because they have the blood on them, and they're trying to kill them off, you know. So they're running around. The first person that actually ended up dying was the cheerleader friend. The way she died, oh my god, I can't even show that in this clip, but when you watch it, you're gonna be like, wow. That's how I was just like, wow, that's how. Okay. So after that, you know, the guy friend and the little brother, they ended up running out from the back from the other girl, and as they're running, the hatchet slinging slasher one was actually chasing after the little brother. So when they ended up going to separate aisles, like running. So they're like, the guy friend is like, she's behind me. And the little brother is just screaming like, oh, you know, he's behind me. And they ended up getting to the end of the aisle, and they're looking at each other like, oh shit. So when they stopped, the hatchet man ended up hitting the guy friend in the head. He ended up dying next. I'm just like, what? I was just so sad because he was my favorite character. Like, his character was like the light of the movie. I will say it made it funny, because I like how they made this slasher horror with a little bit of a comedic streak in there, just a little bit, by adding a character that doesn't really take nothing serious. He was like that type of character. So man, so that was going down. He ended up dying. And now the brother, and he saw that, was like, oh shit. He took off running. He running, and he just screaming for his sister, like, oh, like, cause he see them down the aisle, and she's like really trying to drown her, like, just die, like, hurry up and die type of situation, you know. So that's taking forever. The brother, what's a horror movie without somebody falling down while they're getting chased by the murderer? So the brother ended up tripping over his feet and falling onto the ground, and the skull mask killer was actually chasing him at this point, and he got on top of the brother, and his sister is seeing this go down, and I guess she thought like, damn, I'm about to watch my brother die. So when she was seeing that happening, she started pushing the girl head in the water even more, like, come on, like, hurry up. And then as the skull mask killer was about to kill the brother, Sam actually ended up dying. She ended up passing away, and everything just vanished from that point. So she ended up dying, and then the brother, you know, came running over there like, oh my god, she was like, go, 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 you know, go get the EpiPens. So she went, the brother went to go get the EpiPens, and she just going ham, like just using, I think he grabbed like a good handful of them. She just started going in, and the brother is like, are you doing it the right way? She's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So she just hitting them in her chest, like hitting it in her chest, and it starts to slow down and she starts to catch her breath, and then eventually Sam ended up coming back to life. So she survived everything, basically. So they thought. They were thinking everything was over with. The police ended up showing up, you know, they were at the police station, and the policeman was actually feeding them a story to tell because they didn't want to spook the town, like, because from what they were saying, they don't want anyone to believe that the city is cursed, basically, that the town is cursed. And that's basically what they were saying, like, no, this is what happened. The town is cursed and this is what's going on. But the police officer was like, no, you know, we're just gonna pin it on your two friends that's dead. And they're like, no, like, why would you do that? Like, that is out of their character. They would never do anything like this. They were trying to say that it was like a drug deal gone bad or something, because they knew that those kids were selling drugs, like pills and stuff, to other people. So they were just trying to put that, I guess, narrative on why they ended up dying. So yeah. So from there, they're like, okay, whatever. They went ahead and agreed with the story. Fast forward, they ended up leaving the police station. And the whole time, like I said in the beginning, I'm like, where are these kids' parents? The only parent that you see through this whole movie is Sam's mom. You hear Sam's mom on the phone, and then you see Sam's mom at the end. That's it. You don't see no type of parents, nothing. It's so crazy. So Sam was like, okay, well, her mom was like, get over here. Because when they was walking out the police station, Sam and her girlfriend were holding hands. So her mom was like, get over here right now. She went over there and she was just like, you would never see her again. Or something, I don't know. It was something that she said, and she was just like, no, Sam's girlfriend was like, will I see you again? And then Sam looked at her mom and she was just like, no. And when she said that, that pissed me off. I was like, I know you lying, girl. You better go and see them after what they done did for you. You are going to live with me at this point. You are my slave, okay? That's the way I felt after seeing that. But, you know, it kind of tricked everyone. She ended up walking up to her girlfriend and was like, no, I'm going to see you tonight. And ended up kissing her in front of her mom. So, boom, there you go. She's out and finally showing and, you know, accepting that she's gay. Fast forward to later on that night, they were laying in Sam's bed and thinking everything is done, you know? It's the end. We don't have to worry about this anymore. It's the end, you know? The curse is gone. The curse has been lifted. So as they laying there, they end up getting a ring at the doorbell. They were kind of like looking at each other like, oh shoot. Because, you know, from previously when somebody knocked and rang the doorbell, it was the skull mask killer. It was actually the police. I mean, not the police, the pizza guy. They ordered pizza and the brother was like, what? And he had some pizza in his hand or whatever. So they were laughing about that. And then the phone ended up ringing. So Sam's girlfriend answered the phone and was just like, hello. No one was saying anything, basically. So she was like, hello, you know, like trying to get an attention, like get any answer. And she was like, okay, great. Thanks for playing on my phone. She was about to hang up the phone. And lo and behold, it was C. Berman calling them back. And she was just like, oh, thanks for calling back, returning the call. You know what I'm saying? Because they called her in a time where they thought like, oh shoot, we all about to die. Because that was when the ex-murderer guy from the Night Owl massacre was like ripping down the door. So she went to explain and was like, it's not over. It's not over. And she was like, what are you talking about? We brought her back. You survived. She was like, yeah, but it's never over. So Sam is just like, and as she explaining everything, I can't even remember everything she said, to be honest. But as she's explaining everything, she's just like, yeah, this, that, and the third. And Sam's girlfriend kind of looked up, like, she turned around. Sam was standing behind her, fully possessed at this time, still, by Sarah Fear. She's fully possessed, got the fly flying around her. And Sam's girlfriend looked down and Sam actually stabbed the girl with like a she broke something off and like stabbed her. I thought it was done too from the first time I watched it, but when I watched it the second time, you start to see everything more, like little hidden gems, you know what I'm saying? So her brother is downstairs like listening to music, you know, in his own zone, on the chat room, talking to his friend, telling him what happened about the situation. And then a hand appears on her brother's shoulder. I thought it was Sam at first, but it was actually his sister, and she was holding her stomach. Like, they ended up going upstairs, and Sam is wrapped with the phone cord. Like, she wrapped her up really tight with the phone cord, and I think she did something with her hands. She's talking to her brother, and she's like, yeah, Sam, this is not Sam. And I'm just like, you think? Like, what the heck? So yeah, from there, she just was kind of talking to her brother, and her brother was standing there like in awe, like, what the heck is going on? Like, why is this happening? Yeah, and she ended up kneeling down to Sam and was like, I'm gonna get you back, I'm gonna get you back. And that's how part 1 ends of Fear Street 1994. So yeah, let me finish highlighting my face. I'm gonna put like some lip gloss on, nothing too crazy with the lips, and I'll be back to close out this video. But that's pretty much how that movie went down. All right, you guys, so that pretty much sums up this video. Oh my gosh, that movie is crazy. If you have not seen Fear Street part 1 1994, then you definitely need to check it out. Like, y'all, that movie had me like on edge the whole time. Like, from the first scene, you kind of like, damn, so this is what I'm getting myself into. Like, this is how the movie is going to be. Like, it just really set the tone for the whole movie. So yes, definitely check it out. There is a part 2. Now, if you guys want me to speak about it, I will definitely do a part 2. I mean, I'm gonna do that anyways. That will probably be the next video for Friday for movies and makeovers. I will be doing part 2 of Fear Street 1978. So y'all, if you have not watched it, definitely go and watch it. If you enjoyed this kind of content, definitely let me know down below in the comments, and also give this video a thumbs up. That definitely helps me out a lot, and it also lets me know that you guys are really enjoying my content and you want to see more. So without further ado, I will talk to you all in my next video. Bye.